I said what I had to say. So I want to do something different, and I always thought myself as a fiction writer, but it wasn't actually writing any fiction. So it seemed to be it was time to actually start doing it. And my first job after school was working in the book section of the Village Voice, and it was my job to open the books that came in every day, and we got 40 books a day in, and it's disheartening. We only review 40 books a month, so a lot of these books are just going to be sold to the Strand, where my editor will get her $1,000 tax-free income selling review copies. And it's so random, the process of, we'll meet the intern opening the book, and then it goes on the shelves, or it gets stranded on some editor's desk because they're a fan and not going to have a review this, and they take it back to their own private stash. Or I'm trying to read up on, trying to fill in holes in my knowledge. So I just take the next Don DeLillo book home, and I mean, we're going to review Don DeLillo, but books disappear, and you realize that the publishing world doesn't care about you and your kind of silly ideas. Someone just do them, I guess. My first attempt at a novel was very pop culture heavy. It was kind of a hipster 20-something novel, and no one wanted to publish it. But it seemed like I'm not going to learn a real trade, like become a vet or a lawyer. Nothing else is making me happy. Nothing else gives my day some sense of purpose. So I had to start the next book, and it was a book about elevator inspectors, and that seemed like definitely no one would like that. But there's sort of no choice. This was the book that I had to get out of my system, and maybe I would write something that people would care about. So I think I try to, since there is actually no, I guess at the end of the day, when you're working on something, it's just you and your computer, and whether you've gotten some good reviews or bad reviews that week, they're not going to help you get the next couple words out. I mean, it's really the sort of essential situation of you trying to fill a page. So I think I'm rambling a bit here.
Okay, family, that was welcome back to all you who rejoined me. Hold on, let me put this on.
Thanks for the lovely introduction. Thanks to the Humanities Festival for having me, and thanks to all of you lovely people for coming out.
Yeah,
my hair has changed a lot over the years. That's what people don't really know what I look like. It's the same reason that the bills that come to my apartment are in my wife's name, and all the legal documents are in her name. Because the man is out to get me, and I don't want him knowing where I live. I've moved every 2 years, and the hair thing is part of that. There's a small mistake in the program. It says that my upcoming novel is a love story set on the cusp of the Russian Revolution. I have a website, and I use it to announce upcoming meetings or look for stuff. But I'm on the book coming out every 2 or 3 years, and so I feel like the website gets lonely, so I just put up fake stuff periodically. And so in the spring, I finished my book, and I didn't want to say what it was about. Outside of my experience, because a lot of white people in it, I had to do research. So I was watching a lot of episodes of The Golden Girls, and I thought that, that would be sort of obvious too. It's not a lot. So that's that. The reading is pretty self-explanatory. I can only give one sort of explanation. There are a couple of fiction writer jokes here, and only like 5 poet jokes. But the poets always walk out when I read this stuff really angry, even though it's only a small percentage. So I just want to make it clear that I love the craft of poetry, and they're just in it. And the other thing is that for the youngsters, before we had computers, we would write on things called typewriters. And if you wanted to test the keys of a typewriter, you could write out a phrase such as, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." It's a sentence that has every single letter in the alphabet, and so if you put it in, you would find out if all the keys are working. So that's that. How to write. There comes a moment in every writer's life when it is time to edit an anthology. So a year and a half ago, I started assembling an anthology on the writer's craft. I'm calling it How to Write and the Art of Writing. Writers write about writing. The idea was simple. Today's best writers on the topic of their choice. In short, writers writing about writing. I sent out letters to a lot of prominent people in the publishing community.
All right, hold on. Yes, I'm back. I'm ready to get started. Sorry about the wait. Okay, let's take this off. Stop sharing. Welcome, and we're going to be reading this book, finishing up not finishing it up. It's going to take us a while, but getting back into Colson's book here. What we learned so far is we learned about the main character, Lily Mae, and that she is an elevator inspector whom inspects with her intuition. She's a Black female, of course, and she's already had some challenges with one of the governors of one of the buildings as she was inspecting. So we went through that, and then we saw her get called from her job, and then and endure a little bit of turmoil in the beginning here already. So we're going to finish up and get into it and where we left off. Okay. And we're on page 12. Okay. Okay. Bones. Lily Mae stood in front of Miss Parker's third grade class and trembled as she started her report. She preferred to fade into the back rows next to the rabbit cages, beneath the awkward pastels of the spring art project. There she was at Mrs. Parker's desk, and her index cards shook in her tiny hands. Hold on, let me do something. I'm gonna put my speaker. I'm gonna put my microphone on. I think that works better. Let me do that. It's gonna work a little bit better. Give us a little bit. Yeah, it's a rainy day over here, so yeah, it's great to cuddle up with a book and just to read. Okay. Can you hear me better, family? I hope so. This should be better. Let me make sure I'm on the right. Let me adjust it. Oh. Okay, that should be better now. Okay, that should be much better now. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Okay. She preferred to fade in the back rows next to the rabbit cages beneath the awkward pastels of the spring art project. There she was at Miss Parker's desk, and her index cards shook in her tiny hands. Fanny Briggs was a slave who taught herself how to read. One time, a radio program featured Dorothy Beecham, the most famous colored actress in the country. Reading parts of Fanny Briggs' accounts of her escape north, Lily Mae's mother called her into the drawing room. Lily Mae's legs dangled over her mother's lap as she leaned towards the brown mesh of the radio speaker. The actress' voice was iron and strong and did not fail to summon an applause from the more liberal quarters of her audience, who murmured about noble struggle. Tiny particles of darkness pressed beyond the cracked, weedy mesh of the speaker. The kind of unsettling darkness Lily Mae would later associate with the elevator. Well, of course, she'd do her oral report on Fanny Briggs. Who else was there? Not much progress in this traffic. The times are changing. In a city with an increasing vocal colored population who are not above staging tiresome demonstrations for the lower tabloids or throwing tomatoes and rotten cabbage during otherwise perfectly orchestrated speeches in rallies. It only makes sense to name the new municipal building after one of their heroes. The mayor is not stupid. You don't become the ruler of a city this large and insane by being stupid. The mayor is shrewd and understands that the city is not a southern city. It is not an old money city or a new money city, but the most famous city in the world, and the rules are different here. The new municipal building has been named the Fannie Briggs Memorial Building, and there have been few complaints and fewer tomatoes. When Lily Mae was assigned the Fannie Briggs Memorial Building, she thought nothing of it. It made sense that it would be either her or Pompey, the only two colored inspectors in the department. Chancray's no fool. I should say Chancray's no fool. There are, after all, election years in the elevator guild too, and this is one of them. And all sorts of unexpected things have been happening. The department-wide $1.25 raise, for example, which according to Shen Cray really adds up to a pretty penny. After a while, not that the elevator inspectors civil servant to the core, despite their maverick reputations and occasionally flashy antics, needed to be convinced of importance of a $1.25 raise. A government job is a government job, whether it's inspecting elevators or railroad cars full of hanging meat, and anything that brings their salaries into closer proportion to their contributions to the American good are accepted cheerfully. Election year ploy or no. Same thing with the screwdrivers. When a memo circulating soon after the raises are announced that the new screwdrivers were on their way, few cared that the guild chair was so naked in his attempt to score points with the electorate. For the new screwdrivers were quite beautiful. Ever since the city granted license to the department, bulky and ungainly screwdrivers had poked and bulged in the jacket pockets of the elevator inspectors, completely ruining any attempts at damperness and savoir-faire. It's difficult to look official and imposing while listening to one side. Okay, that's what that's supposed to be. The new screwdrivers have mother of pearl handles and heads the exact width of an inspection plate screw. They fold out like jackknives and lend themselves to a Baroque fantasy about spies and secret missions. And who can argue with that? So when the word spreads that Lily Mae had been assigned to 18 deep elevator stack in the Fannie Briggs Memorial Building, 18 deep, a career-making case for any inspector. Few were surprised, and whatever announced Shane Cray lost among the old dogs of the guild was more than compensated for by the goodwill generated by the raise and the new mother of pearl jackknife screwdrivers. Lily Mae knew when she got the assignment that it was meant to draw attention from Shancray. opponent in the race for the guild chair. The liberal Orville lover, who apparently thinks that only intuitionists are capable of building coalitions. Shaking hands with fundamentally different people, etc. Lily Mae, who, by the way, is still making much headway in the evening traffic, may be an intuitionist, but she is colored woman, which is more to the point. Shankre's assistants left a note on her desk. Your good service won't be forgotten after the election, as if she needed to be bribed with a vague promise of promotion, and probably a lie anyway. It's her job. She's taken an oath, and such things are to be taken seriously. Lila Mae held the note in her small hands, and even though she did not look up from her desk, she knew that all of them, the old dogs and the new guys in their retrograde safety haircuts, were looking at her. The way the gossip flows in the pit, Lily Mae is situated quite far downstream. They probably knew she got the case before she did. Probably Skinny Ned, that vapor, that meandering cumulus masquerading as a man, sentenced to desk duty after the infamous Johnson Towers debacle, talked to a guy who talked to a guy in Shankre's inner circle, and the word came down, the colored gal gets the job. Not any of them, not Pompey. There are no surprises in election years, just a bit more static. And here's Shankre's noun arms struts at the tails of his signature double-breasted suit, 20 feet tall, on a billboard for the United Elevator Company. Lily Mae's car creeps through the bottleneck at the entrance of to the tunnel. So there's no missing him, no more honking for this glum procession. They can see the tunnel now, and there is always the mandatory period of pensive anticipation on entering the tunnel. All safe, declares the copy across his feet, a play on Otis' famous declaration at the 1853 Crystal Palace Exposition. The reference doesn't mean much to the people in the cars around Lily Mae elevator. Ads probably only register in civilian heads as a dim affirmation of modernity. Happy progress to be taken for granted and subconsciously cherished, but Otis' phrase is the hoist pulling her and her fellow inspectors out of bed each morning. The sacred motto. Even long observers of the mysterious ways of corporate vanity are hard pressed to understand the sudden ubiquity of elevator ads. In addition to billboards like the one towering over Lily Mae right now, the elevator industry's advertisement line park benches. Adoring the buses and subways of the city's transit system, brass the outfield walls of baseball stadiums, bright non sequiturs, other places too. One time before the start of a double feature at her favorite movie house, the Mark on 23rd Street. Notorious among those in the know for its free popcorn refills, Lily Mae sat astonished at the 30-second movie reel. Introduced American Elevators, new frictionless drive from time to time. Excuse me. Lily Mae still catches herself humming the Spot's elastic doo-wop chorus. Never mind that the frictionless drive in question is just Americans' old 240 to 60 drive in a smart new housing. It's a relatively recent phenomenon. The vocality of the international short range vertical transport industry, and there's no one to explain it. How much Shankray makes in an endorsement each year is anyone's guess, but it goes without saying that he has a lot riding on his reelection to the guild chair. Just look at him up there. So far, Lily Mae thinks her role in the campaign is limited to window dressing, evidence for the new progressive face of the Elevator Guild, and by extension, city government. She doesn't know yet. She's almost inside the tunnel when WCAM finally decides to update the situation at Fannie Briggs Memorial Building. The yellow tiles inside the tunnel glisten and Lily Macy's long throat strangled by mucus. In this geometric voice, so full of planes, WCAM's radio announcer says that Shankray and the mayor will be holding a press conference to discuss what transpired at the new municipal building early this afternoon. Before he can say something more, something tangible that Lily Mae can use to prepare herself, the tunnel eats the transmission. Like that. Then there's just the agitated scratch of static inside her sedan and the earnest humming of multiple tires on the tunnel floor outside. Near silence. To better contemplate the engineering marvel, they travel through the age of miracles. They live in the air. They live in the air is poisonous. Something happened. It was her case. Lily Mae drums her fingers on the steering wheel and relieves her call to the Briggs building the day before. And she relives her call, to the Briggs building the day before. Those looking for correlative those looking for a correlative to Fannie Briggs' powerful, lumpy body in the shape of the building dedicated to her would have to bear in mind the will to squat that roosts in the soul of every city architect. Government buildings are generally squat rather than tall, presumably to better accommodate deep file drawers of triplet ephemera. So it has been for generations. But who can resist the seduction of elevators these days? Those stepping stones to heaven, which make relentless verticality so alluring, while the architects understand that the future is up, the future is in a how high you can go. It is difficult to shake old habits. Habits clamp down on the ankle and resist all intricacies. No matter how logical as it is in politics, the only victor in the end was ugly compromise. The Fannie Briggs Memorial Building hunkers down on the northern edge of the Federal Plaza in the renovated section of downtown. Burly and squat for 5 floors before launching into space with another 40 stories of pure unsullied still. The next effect is chrysalid, a photograph of a glass insect emerging from a stone cocoon. When Lily Mae first walked up the broad stone steps of the building, she looked up at the monolith above and felt a trembling insect of vertigo. It was a big responsibility. The mandatory Latinate motto was engraved above the entrance. Lily Mae is outside the tunnel now and can't think of what she did wrong. She needs a plan. Keep cool, Lily Mae. So, thus far, Lily Mae finds out over the radio that there's a problem with the elevator she just finished inspecting, and she is meanwhile stuck in traffic. And having these flashbacks. And as we know, we started out with the flashback of her when she was younger in class. And then she goes in and out of her subconsciousness. While all of this is like a long scene of her in her car in traffic. The weird thing about the tunnel is that on the world side, the city skyline is merely one incident among many on the horizon. From the world side of the tunnel, the skyline is a roll of broken teeth, an angry serration gnawing at the atmosphere. But there's a lot of other stuff going on. Dirty water and more. Land beyond that dirty water. The humble metropolitan outpost just departed a crop of weedy smokestacks. Lots of stuff, 360 degrees to choose from and the generous illusion of choice. Then the tunnel, and no more sky, nothing but teeth. The drivers mellow once they hit the city because they remember again what the city is like and get exhausted. One by one as they exit the tunnel and can't remember why they were in such a hurry to get there. The Intuitionist system of one-way streets and prohibited U-turns make retreat a difficult enterprise. This is on purpose. As she turns the corner to headquarters, Lily Mae sees that the press conference is underway. Although it takes her a few seconds to put two and two together, remarkably, pinstripes on the newspapermen and radio reporters. If the city's fathers could only regulate construction. Keep tabs on how this place looks from afar. Maybe the city could be those pinstripes uniform, doubtless regiment. The thicket of federal men is such that initially she can't make only Shancray and the mayor, but then Lily Mae sees the strange red halation that forms around Shancray's Irish face. When all the blood rushes into it, when the incumbent guild chair is set for one of his eruptions, she feels exposed, a voyeur in full moonlight on the clearest night of summer, because they are talking about her, because she is implicated in all this. She knows this much, if not the specifics. The press conference bows around the interest to headquarters, and the garage ramp is mercifully unimpeded. The flash bulbs crackle and pop while dry brush beneath the feet of hunters. City buildings may be deficient and inadequate staple supplies. Comfortable chairs, quality toilet paper, but never in fluorescent lights. Lily Mae eases her sedan into the rank gloom of the garage and past the observation window of the mechanic's office. The six-man crew in the dark green uniforms crane over their office's old, reliable radio, and Lily Mae prays she will make it safe past them. Be spared the customary frowns and cold nods. Dirty colleague woman, this, no, she said Dicty college woman. This place in the garage is what the department has allowed the colored men. It is underground. There are no windows permitting sky, and the sick light is all the more innervating for it. But the mechanics have done their best to make it their own. For example, a close inspection of Shancray's campaign posters, which are taped to every other cement column, despite regulations against campaign literature within 100 yards of headquarters, reveals a myriad tiny insurrections such as counterclockwise swirls in the middle of Chancre's pupils, an allusion to his famous nocturnal dipsomania. You have to stand up real close to the posters to see the swirls. And even then, they're easy to miss. Lily Mae had to have Jimmy point them out to her. Horns, boiling, cysts, the occasional cuss word inked in across Chancre's slate teeth. They add up after a while, somehow more personal and meaningful than the usual cartoons and pimps of Office Homestead. No one notices them, but they are there, never invisible, and count for something. Lily Mays closes the door and squeezes between the case. It's past 7, and none of the night shift have left yet, which hasn't happened in the 3 years she's been with the department. She doesn't have a plan yet, figures she has at least until the press conference is over before she has to meet Chancre, and that much time to get her story straight, unfortunately. Lily Mae realizes she turned in her inspection report on Briggs Building yesterday afternoon. And even if she could think of a way to sneak into the processing past Miss Bali and her girls, they would have already removed it as evidence. How long before they pull in internal affairs? If they haven't already, no one owes her any favors. After 3 years, she doesn't owe any favors, and no one owes her any back, which was how she liked it until till now. She is reconsidering her position. Maybe Chuck, how's she running today? Jimmy asks. The young mechanic almost says that when Lily Mae comes in from the field, figuring that this consistency and friendly shop talk will one day seem worth it. Fondly recollecting as a period of prehistoric innocence in their romance. He didn't sneak up on her, really. Lily Mae was just too preoccupied to notice his worry body canter out of the office across the cement. She's not too preoccupied, however, to notice that his daily query sounds uncertain today. The unusual ambiguity over whether he is asking about Lily Mae or the department sedan, even more confused. He is smiling, however, and Lily Mae thinks maybe things aren't that bad. After all, Lily Mae asks, what are all these cars still doing here? They're all listening to Chancre and the mayor talk about the building. He's not sure how much to say, or how much to say, or how to say it. He pulls his rag from the from the back pocket of his overalls and twists and bends it. It's going to be like pulling teeth. After all, this time Lily Mae is not sure of Jimmy, if Jimmy is just shy or dim-witted. Whenever she decided for sure one way, Jimmy does something to make her reconsider initiating another few months speculation. They're talking about the Fanny Briggs building, right? Yes, Jimmy says. And what happened to it? She's taking it step by step. She is very aware, and her time is running out. Something happened and the elevator fell. There's been a lot of fuss about it. And everybody in the garage is saying that you did it. Sucks in his breath. And that's what they're saying on the radio too. It's okay, Jimmy. Just one more thing. Is the day shift upstairs or are they in O'Connor's? I heard some of them say they were going over to O'Connor's. To listen to Shankray, the poor kid is shaking. He stopped smiling some time ago. Thank you, Jimmy. Lily Mae says up the ramp out onto the streets. And it's 3 stores over to O'Connor's. She can probably make it without being seen by the people at the entrance. If Chuck is there. On her way out, Lily Mae grabs Jimmy's shoulder and tells him she's running fine. Fibbing, of course. So, family, we're going to continue this reading of The Intuitionist. We'll finish it. We'll see it tomorrow. But so thus far, she's having to face the dilemma with the elevator in the building, her new building that she was given. So she's actually getting more information on what happened to it, and she's having to she's actually there at her workplace now discussing it, and she knows she's going to have questions afterwards, after the conference, the news conference. So with that said, family, always remember true love, real peace, and the higher self within. Till next time, peace.